Welcome to Pure 2, Chapter 4.3, where we combine partial fractions with binomial expansion. So when you use partial fractions, when the question asks so, simple, all right, big brains. I used to have a uni lecturer told me one thing, okay? He said, he's in the final year of an idea math degree, and he said, literally, that's what he said. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, skip it. That's what he told us before the exam. All right. So anyway, so part A, hopefully you recall how to do partial fractions. If you don't, have a look in the videos of chapter 1 in the Pure 2, chapter 1. All right. So express 4 minus 5x over 1 plus x over times 2 minus x as partial fractions. If you want to do it as a practice, as a revision for part A, feel free. Pause the video now. But otherwise, I'll go for it. So question A, I'm going to write 4 minus 5x over 1 plus x, 2 minus x is equivalent to A. We'll split the denominator like this way, plus B over 2 minus x. That's the only way you can split denominator. Okay, so my next line will be 4 minus 5x is equal to A times cross multiply 2 minus x plus B times 1 plus x. There are two methods you can find the values A and B, either by comparing coefficient or sub in the roots. All I do is the second one, sub in the roots. So when x equals, the roots are, you can see minus 1 and 2. So when x equals minus 1, you get 4 minus 5 times minus 1 equals A times 2 minus minus 1 plus B times 0. When you sub in the root, one of the brackets should equal 0. So 4 plus 5 is 9 equals 3A. So A equals 3. And when x equals to the other root, which is 2, when x equals 2, 4 minus 5 times 2 equals to A times 0 plus B times 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. So 4 minus 5 times 2, 4 minus 5 is minus 6. So minus 6 equals 3B. B equals to minus 2. So it's always a good habit to rewrite the answer as a fraction together. 4 minus 5x over 1 plus x times 2 minus x. Now, do not underestimate this step, rewriting it. It helps your brain to visualize what you've got for the next one. Is make it less, you have to process things less for the next step. So which is a very powerful thing to do. Okay, if you want to lessen your cognitive load. So that's the answer for part A. Okay, part B. Now, hence show that the cubic approximation. Now, I do want to say in here, I do get confused when I make the notes myself. This actually from the material the exam board has published, cubic approximation. Okay, cubic approximation means approximate up to x cubed. It is not 4 minus 5x over 1 plus x times 2 minus x cubed. So this is not the case. Okay, so it's approximate up to x cubed. So that's what we need to know. Okay, so which is not the case. Right, so what we want to do is want to approximate up to x cubed. So, well, how do we do that? So part B. So to approximate this up to x cubed term, we can think about is basically we want to work out 3 over 1 minus x minus 2 over 2 minus x. Now, how do I know after I'm not using the fraction rather than the partial fraction? Because the word hence, right? The word hence means use previous result. Means use previous result. Usually that will give you an easier way out. Okay, so use previous result. It's like a hint. So I want to expand this. How do I do that? Well, hopefully you remember binomial expansion. So we can do 3 times 1 plus x to the power of minus 1 minus 2 times 2 minus x to the power of minus 1. So we'll do expansion and also expansion, okay, separately. So up to x cubed, right? So let's do it one by one. 3 times 1 plus x to the power of minus 1, which is equal to 3 times expansion. If you want to do it, pause video, do that. So 1 plus nx, 1 plus nx plus n times n minus 1, n minus 1 over 2 factorial x squared plus n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 over 3 factorial times x cubed. Don't forget the 3 on the outside, so 3 bracket. So 1 minus x. This one, let me put in a calculator. Minus 1 times minus 2 over 2 factorial is just x squared. And then this one, if you put it in a calculator, you get 1 again. So minus 1 x cubed. Multiply 3 back in with 3 minus 3x plus 3x squared minus 3x cubed. Da-di-da-da. Right? Next one. The 2. So split into 2 expansion. Where's my other highlighter color? Okay, so my so it'll be 2 times 2 minus x to the power of minus 1. Right, this one recalls you need the knowledge from 4.1. 4.2, sorry. You need the knowledge for 4.2. So let me write down. So this is chapter 4.1, chapter 4.2. Right? If you want to have it, if you want to have a go at the question, please be my guest. Okay? Pause video, have a go. All right. Remember, we can't have the 1 in front. We need to have the 1 in front. No, we can't have a 2 in the front. My mistake. We can't have a 2 in the front. So we have to do some factorizing before we can use the binomial expansion. So I'll go through. Okay. So 2. All right. We can't have the 2 in there. So what we need to do is put a 2, put out a 2. So it'll be x over 2, power of minus 1, which give you 2, the 2 outside, times, if you want to put a 2 out of the bracket, 2 to the power of minus 1, times 1 minus x over 2 to the power of minus 1. 2 times 2 to the power of minus 1 is indeed just 1. So which is same as 1 minus x over 2 to the power of minus 1. So the question now becomes 1 minus x over 2 to the power of minus 1 roughly equals to, actually all of them previous ones should be roughly equals to. Let me do it again. So it should all be roughly equals to, technically. Right, so it will be 1 plus nx, so 1 plus n times x minus x over 2 plus n times n minus 1 over 2 factorial times x, don't forget a negative, and plus n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 over 3 factorial times x cubed. Don't forget the negative over 2. So now put in a calculator. You should get 1 plus x over 2 plus a quarter x squared plus 1 over 8x cubed. So after you've done so many maths, you'll be reading the question. What am I achieving in here? The question wants you to find an approximation for this. And what is exactly this 4 minus 5x over 1 plus x2 minus 3x? We have to subtract the 2 partial fractions. So we'll have to do the yellow bracket, subtract the blue bracket, what we've done. So allow me to write. So that means 4 minus 5x over 1 plus x times 2 minus x roughly equals to the yellow bracket. I'll put a bracket around it. 3 minus 3x plus 3x squared minus 3x cubed. Subtract the blue bracket. 1 plus, I'll put a bracket around it because it's negative. The sign changes. Obviously, you can do everything in one step if you want to do that. Okay, so this is the yellow. Yep, and then the blue. Just a color coded for you guys. See, I'm kind. Right. So, which roughly equals to, if you subtract bracket, so if I allow me to rewrite it, minus and then plus minus x over 2 minus a quarter x squared minus x cubed over 8. So collect the like terms, really. 3 minus 1 is 2. And then if you minus 3, and then you should get the answer required. Okay. Right. That's it for puppy. Right. Sounds complicated, but actually it seems a lot, but a lot of marks will be given out. And you do want to have a similar question in exam because these are just process are long, but they're not difficult. Right. The worst thing in maths is they're really difficult question, really hard question, but they're quite, they're not long. You want a very long question, but they're not as difficult because they give you a lot of method marks in between. State the range of values for x to be valid. So we'll talk about validity. Okay, we'll talk about validity. So let's do it one by one. Remember, we're split into 2. So 3 times 1 plus x to the power of minus 1. So for validity. Okay, validity. So 3 times 1 plus x to the power of minus 1. So the validity is the x less than 1. Now you might be wondering, what about the 3 on the outside? The 3 outside has nothing to do with the expansion. What matters for the validity is expansion inside bracket. So the 3 outside has nothing to do with it. Okay, so it's nothing to do with it. So what about the 2 times 2 minus x to the power of minus 1? So validity is, hopefully you learned it in chapter 4.2, is the margin of x less than the number in the front, the number in here, 2 over 1, which is 2. So x less than 1, x less than 2, if you put a number line, okay, so 1, oops, 1 minus 1, and 2 minus 2. Where do they overlap? Wow, this part. So the overall validity, so the overall. Now, do you have to show this number line? You don't have to. Okay, I'll just give you illustration why the final answer is just less than 1, because where they both overlap. Okay, it's just in between these two. Right, and if you're happy with this, one more exam practice. Okay, once you finish with this, that's the end of chapter 4. It's a fairly short chapter, but it's quite exam heavy question pack. Pause the video, have a go at the question. 11 marks, lovely, sweet. Pause the video, have a go. When you're ready for the answer, you can press play. Here's the final answer. All right, if you got it right, well done. End of lesson, end of chapter as well. But if you don't, part A. If you're wondering what happened to this one, this is a improper fraction, a top-heavy fraction. So if you want to do improper fraction, to impartial fraction, you'll need to do algebraic division. Hopefully that rings a bell. If you don't, again, chapter 1.5. If you need help with that, that's pure to chapter 1.5, if I remember correctly. Okay, have a go of my other videos and notes if you want to go through it again. Okay, so what you can do is, again, you want to do 2x squared plus 5x minus 10. Expand the denominator, you get x squared. Minus 1 plus 2 is plus 1x plus minus 2. Okay, so what I did was in here, this is expansion for x minus 1, x plus 2. Okay, so do division. So x squared to fit x squared to 2x squared, you need to times by 2. So 2x squared, 2 times x, 2x, 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. Do a subtraction. That's 3x minus 4, minus 10 plus 4 is minus 6. Am I right? Minus 6. Yes. So therefore, that gives you, so we're not done yet. It's a 4 mark, so we're not done yet. You wish. So plus 5x minus 10 over x minus 1 times x plus 2. That's now equivalent to 2 plus the remainder over the quotient. The dividend. I can't remember the name of this. In a long division, basically, each part of the process has a name. This called quotient. This called remainder, obviously. This called dividend or divisor. One of them. I can't remember. So now what you also then need to do is this way you have to do the partial fractions. Okay, so we're going to do 3x plus 6 over x. I'm going to put it back into x minus 1, x plus 2. Is now equivalent to a, or the use b. So b over x minus 1 plus c over x plus 2. So 3x plus 6 is now equal to b times x plus 2 plus c times x minus 1. Cross multiply. So when x equals to minus 2, why minus 2? Because the roots, again, if you forget about partial fraction, please go back to chapter 1 video. I don't want to explain too much in here to make the video unnecessarily long. So minus 2, so 3 times minus 2 plus 6 is 0. Why is that 0? Hang on. I made a mistake. 3x. Oh, 3x minus 6. Silly me. Silly mistake. Happens to me, to everyone. You know, just like that. Jokes. It happens to everyone, and everyone loves it. Minus 12. So E equals to, that's 0b. Minus 3c. So c equals 4. Okay, and then when x equals to 1, which is the other root, so when x equals 1, you get minus 3 equals to 3b, so b equals to minus 1. So I rewrite the whole thing. Therefore, 4x minus 5 over x minus 1, x plus 2 equals to 2 plus the b, or minus 1 rather, minus 1 over x minus 1 plus c 4 over x plus 2. That's the answer. Part B, hence or otherwise expand this in a ascending power of x as far as term in the x squared. So we want to find the expand this. So how to expand this? Well, to expand this, we have the expansion for this one and the second fraction. Let me use a different color for that. Oops. Okay, right. So let's do it. Okay, so 1 over x minus 1 is the same as x minus 1 to the power of minus 1. So which what we need to do is now x minus 1, if you don't like this expansion, okay, I tend to write as the number goes first. So minus 1 plus x to the power of minus 1. But here's the issue. 1 minus x is x minus 1. X minus 1. Yeah, x minus 1. So we don't have the minus in here, so what can we do? Well, actually, the devil's in details. Put a factor as a minus, so 1 minus x to the power of minus 1. Give you, think about it, it's minus 1 to the power of minus 1 over 1 minus x to the power of minus 1. Minus 1 to the power of minus 1 is just 1. Okay, hang on, nope. Minus 1, best put in a calculator. Minus 1 to the power of minus 1 is minus 1. Yep, that's the same as minus 1 minus x to the power of minus 1. So let's do that. So that will be same as, so negative of 1 minus x to the power of minus 1 is equivalent to negative, okay, 1 plus nx, 1 plus, I like to do x equals to minus x, n equals to minus 1. Just remind myself what's n, what's x. So n, x, plus n times n minus 1 over 2 factorial x squared. I just need to do up to x squared term, right? Yes, 7 marks. That's why you can imagine 7 marks. Okay, that's quite a lot of things to do in here. Now, I'll explain again. Why do I have to do the 1 minus x to the power of minus 1 in here? Why so extra? Because when we do expansion in the binomial, we need to have the coefficient in the front as, need to have the constant term as 1. Nothing but 1, not minus 1. So that's why we factorize a minus outside. Just like what we did in the 4.2 when you have a 2 in the front or 3 in the front on previous example. Okay, so just have to factorize the minus 1. Then in here, you put a minus, so it'll be 1 plus x. This one, put in a calculator. Minus 1 times minus 2 over 2 times minus 1 squared is 1. So plus x squared. But when you factorize the negative, that will give you negative 1 minus x squared. Okay, so that's the blue bit. Oops, that's the blue part. Right, right, let's do the yellow. Yellow is 4 over x plus 2. So 4 over x plus 2 is the same as 4 times x plus 2 to the power of minus 1, which is the same as, now we need to have constant term in the front. So 4 times 2 plus x to the power of minus 1. We don't want the 2 in the front. We need to make this a 1. So what do we do? We need to factorize it. So power of minus 1, 2, 1 plus x over 2. Put a minus 1 back in. So 4 times 2 to the power of minus 1 times 1 plus x to the power of 2 to the power of minus 1. 4 times 2 to the power of minus 1, simplify, is a half. Is it? I think it's 2 actually. Sorry, it's 2. Not half, 2. Don't trust your mental maths. 2 times 1 plus x to the power of minus 1. So let's do expansion. So 2 times 1 plus x over 2 to the power of minus 1 is equivalent to 2 times, okay? Again, I like to write x. So x is x over 2. My n is minus 1. So let's do that. So 1 plus n x plus n times n minus 1 over 2 factorial x squared. Let me expand the bracket. So as simplified terms, 1 minus x over 2. Now, the key for this kind of question, binomial expansion, is not to rush and be very vigilant, be careful which step, so you don't want to make any silly mistake, because any mistake that you make in this chapter is normally just silly mistakes. So you want to totally avoid that. So 1 over 2 squared is a quarter plus a quarter x squared. If I multiply 2 in, you should get 2 minus x plus a half x squared. And that's the loss count. Is it yellow or blue? Yellow. That's the yellow expansion. Oh, why is this blue? We need yellow. Blue. Yellow. We need yellow. Yellow. Okay. So now, after expansion, why do we need to do expansion? Let's remind ourselves. The reason we need expansion is because we need to write this as 2 minus the blue expansion plus the yellow expansion. So the 2 minus blue expansion plus the yellow expansion. So 4 minus 5x over 1. I forgot what's the denominator. X minus 1, x plus 2. X minus 1, x plus 2. X minus 1, x plus 2 is equivalent to, it's roughly equivalent to 2 minus the blue expansion. So blue expansion is minus 1 minus x squared. Put a bracket around it. 2 minus the blue expansion. Minus 1 minus x squared. Plus the yellow expansion. 2 minus x plus a half x squared. For plus, whether you put a bracket or not, does not matter anything. So 2 plus 1 plus x squared plus 2 minus x plus a half x squared. 2 plus 1, 3 plus 2 is 5. Now what I'd like to do is, when you have so many terms in here, I like to cross out all the terms I've taken care of. X minus x gone. X squared plus a half x squared is 3 over 2x squared. And that's the answer we need. 7 marks. Hard earned, but well deserved. Applause for give yourself a round of applause because that's the end of chapter 4.3.